Hey folks, it's officially day 9 here on the job site, and we had a little bit of rain overnight, but not too much. I'd say maybe 1/10 of an inch. I didn't look at the rain gauge, but the ground is damp but not wet, no mud, so that's good. But you know, it's just enough to slow things down a little bit this morning. Yesterday was a pretty wild day. A lot of detail. We spent hours and hours just working on detail, lots of little pieces and clips, you know, clips to attach parts, etc. Lots of bolting this and that on. We literally stood stuff up by hand. Amazing. So let me show you what we did. So here you can see that part of the end wall is up. So this end wall was somewhat challenging. We started by building the side walls. To build these side walls for this section, now we had already put in the 12-foot door there, and then that column that you see, and those girts were tied to the column. Those were already there. So all we had to do was assemble this door frame. And so when I was talking about details and clips, these door frames are a big C-channel Purlin, and so, you know, at the bottom they mount to that brace, which is called a clip, and then up here you've got a brace which ties into that girt. That's called a clip. So a couple of those, and then at the top you got mounts to tie in the header, and then there's mounts where the eave will sit on top when we put that up. So we put up this door, tied it into the existing girts, and then we moved forward, and then we had on this side some short girts, and then they tie to this end column, which ties to anchor bolts. So there's those mounts that are on both sides. Tied the girts. You got these, you know, I'll call them nailers. I think they call them a tin clip or something like that. We call them beauty clips. It just allows you to screw the tin siding to that. And so we tied all that in and tied in this column for the end wall. So that was pretty flimsy. That's not a lot of support there until you tie in that rafter and then tie the rafter into the other columns. So what we did, we used the telehandler to lift up. Well, of course we installed the door and everything on the other side, which was exactly like this side. And then we used the telehandler to raise this rafter. We were able to line it up pretty well with the telehandler. And then we use the scaffolding to climb up, and there's 6 bolts that go up there that tie that to that end column, which again is just C-channel Purlin 8-inch. That's not the heavy columns like the other columns are, big solid steel. So I would have preferred that they did the same thing as the rest of the building and use that heavy steel, but you know, this is how the engineers do it. If I had to question why, I imagine it's a cost-saving deal, that this stuff is a lot cheaper than those big giant heavy-duty columns and the rafters that go with those. This is all what I'll call light-duty stuff, which makes it you know, more flimsy, and meaning you have to tie it in. Tying it together with everything else to give it strength and make it rigid is a lot more critical. So after we got the end columns up and tied the rafter to both sides, we left the telehandler in place to hold that up and support it, because if we would have just let go of it, I'm pretty sure it would have came down. So then what we did is we put these 2 other end wall columns up by hand. So we had already mounted, you see clips on there for the girts, and all that was already mounted. The base plates were already there with the anchor bolts. So basically what we did, we put the Purlin in between the two mounts there and used that as a brace to hold the purlin as we stood it up by hand, and we just kind of walked it on up. And then once we walked it up, we slid it into position. There's another clip mount that comes down from the rafter. Slid that into position and then went up the scaffolding and bolted all that together. And then we did the other one the same. Once those were up, then we started putting in this first layer of girts. Luckily, Hank is taller than me, so he was able to basically just stand on one side and lift them up over the clip, put it in place. And then I put a ladder on the other side and walked up the ladder enough to where I could reach and get it on top of the other clip. And then we threw some bolts in them and screwed them together. We put in this row of girt all the way across to give it more sectional support. And then we went up the scaffolding and put on these ratchet straps to act as an X brace. So this section will have cable braces. However, according to the plans, if you see right now, we've got these braces and they go outside of the purlin. Well, the cable brace has to go through the purlin. So in order to go through the purlin, you've got to cut holes in the purlin. And I was looking at the plans thinking we should have some purlin that's got holes in it already. And unfortunately, when you look at the plans, it has the measurements of the hole, not where to put it, but what size to make. So basically, if you look at these little holes down here, you got to cut holes similar to that. They're like 2 inches by 3 inches or something into the purlin, so that the cable can literally pass through the middle of the purling and go up to the other end up there, and same thing come in the opposite direction. And it says yeah, field cut holes, which means we got to cut those holes. And I was like, yeah, I don't have time to do that right now, and not even sure how I'm gonna do it, if I'm gonna use my cutting torch to do that, or plasma cutter, or just drill them. I've got that Evolution magnetic drill coming with some annular cutting bits, so I may use that to drill holes through in the proper place and make the right size hole. That'll probably be the easiest way to do that, and it'll give you smooth cuts, and then I can just take the little grinding wheel maybe and smooth out the edges in the middle and come up with a nice hole when it's said and done. So for now, what we did was we used ratchet straps and put one on each side of the purlin so that it's not like pressing against one side and bending it out. This way it holds it in the middle, and at the same time it puts enough torque on there to make the section more rigid. So today we'll try and get the rest of those purlins up. There's actually 3 layers of purlins on this end wall. So we've got 6 more purlins to go up, or girts, I guess, 6 more girts to go up. And on the roof, we tied that in as well. So you see we've got 4 purlins up there already. And we literally did that after dark last night. So I was up there wearing a headlamp so that I could put bolts in and get it bolted together. Hank was driving the telehandler using a flashlight to see what he was doing, and it was very challenging. And by the time we finished, I was like, that's enough. I wanted to get the eaves up on the outside, but didn't feel that doing that in the dark was meeting our safety requirements, so we called knock it off. Even though we knew today we were going to get some rain, it was always supposed to be clear this afternoon, so I knew at a minimum we would have this afternoon to get those eaves up on the outside, because to me that's the next critical piece of infrastructure, is getting those eaves that go across the very top on the outside and tie all that together. So in other words, we will be tied together solid on the outside. We're already tied together on the rafter in the middle, and put another eave over there, and that ties us on that outside. And then we've got the temporary cable bracing or ratchet strap bracing, whatever you want to call it, to make that rigid and keep that solid while we work. We've still got some bolts to tighten up and stuff. I mean, you can see this column bolts aren't even tight yet, so we'll want to finish stuff like that off. Everything is very solid though. There's no movement in that wall. We just got to tighten those bolts down. Now yesterday I had to weld one of these bolts. Broke off. They were both bent over. I think I showed that in a video. I think I videoed the repair as well, but just for recap, so these two bolts were bent over. So what I did was I heated them up with a little torch, got them real hot, and was able to bend this one back straight up. And when I tried to bend this one, it busted off. So then I took a grinder and I ground off the edges, and I welded it back using some 6011 electrode, and it's pretty solid, and I'm sure that it's fine and would hold this together no problem. But just for my peace of mind, I then drilled another hole in this base plate, and I took a 5/8 anchor bolt, and I don't remember what these are called, but you drill a hole and then you put this in there, pound it down with a big hammer, and then you can tighten the bolt down, and it's pretty solid. So we put a third bolt in there just for peace of mind, so that I know that it's solid, and it is rock solid. So we'll still tighten that up and tighten these up, but overall, like I say, this thing don't move. It's solid, and that's what we need it to be. And of course, keep in mind, once we screw all the side panels to this thing and cover it in, you know, tin, then it's going to be even more solid. And then of course, when I spray foam it, that makes it even more rigid, you know. So I mean, this building is definitely gonna do what we need it to do. So right now we're our structure wise is built out 50 by 80, so 16 feet tall at the sides, and the peak it's around 21 feet, and that's 12-2 pitch. So that's a big building. Definitely gonna be nice when it's finished. And of course, we're going to put the living quarters in the far end of that, and you know, really looking forward to getting this done. But we still got to do it in phases. So I do not have doors on order yet, because I've been having some problems finding what I need. So I found some good price, fair price on some 14 by 14 doors. So it would fit these two openings. So the nice thing, this is a drive-through bay and two matching doors. And I found some that are R16.8, so good insulation value. I believe they're panel doors, but commercial, and they're the right size, 14 by 14, and they're about $3,100 each. So that's a good deal. The problem is the same company doesn't make a 12 by 14 in the same model. So then I would have to get a different door for that, and the company only had a door that fit that size in an R6. So I don't want to have an R16.8 on these doors and an R6 on the other door and then spray foam everything. That kind of defeats the purpose. You want everything insulated well. So, you know, Texas heat gets pretty hot out here. I want good insulation on this shop so that, you know, if I want to air condition it, which I probably will down the road, definitely have that as an option. So I'm still debating, probably going to expand since I can't find what I want. I'm probably just going to expand that door. I'll probably move each of those door jambs out 1 foot, which means I'll have to shorten those girts, drill new holes where it mounts to the eave, and purchase a new header. So it's just 8-inch C-channel, C Purlin, so I should be able to get a piece of that 14 foot long or longer and cut it to the right size, drill some holes for the mounts, and be good to go. So the only challenge will be the concrete. We've got a when they did the pour, they put a slanted entrance so that you know, it makes it nice for driving into the section. So what I would theoretically have to do is, number one, cut off those anchor bolts that are down into the concrete, and then I'll have to drill new holes and put new anchor bolts a foot out, and then I'll have to grind the concrete down so that I pretty much mirror that ledge. And you can see here, for example, this is, we're talking about the door on the other side, but you got this little lip right here where you go to the tin ledge. So, you know, we wouldn't have that here in theory. So we'd come out basically 12 inches from there and then grind this off. So I don't think it's a major deal. We can do it. And I don't see these doors are not structural, meaning they're not holding weight of the building or anything like that. So changing those anchor bolts and stuff really should not create any issue at all. We're just talking about wind load. Can they handle the side shear, whatever you want to call it? And I think we can easily come up with a way to put new anchor bolts in there and do it. I know there's one method that if you call the engineers and stuff and you have to move anchor bolts, they want you to drill a big hole, put anchor bolts down there, use some kind of epoxy and everything to mount them in. So I'll discuss it with a friend of mine that's an engineer and see if these other type of anchor bolts that I used on that, putting that third bolt in, would be sufficient. You know, maybe if I change the bracket and put 4 of them instead of 2 or whatever, I'll seek the advice of an engineer and see what they say. Worst case scenario, I'll have to drill big holes and put some kind of epoxy in there and do that, however they say. But I guess the point is it's all doable. And then instead of a 12-foot door over there, I'll have a 14-foot door, and all the doors will exactly match. So that's what I'm thinking about. This is our last day of work today. So once we finish today's work, we'll knock it off early so I can start getting everything put away, organized, so I can shut down camp, because when I leave, I secure everything so nothing's left out for people to come steal shit. Unfortunately, that's something we deal with in this world. So I like to make sure that I haven't left anything around to be tempting. If people do find their way up here, there's not anything for them to steal. So it's a lot of work to do that every time I come and go, but it's better than having all my stuff ripped off. So that's what I do. So anyway, we'll knock it off by 4 o'clock today, so that I can make sure that I take care of all that, because we're heading out tomorrow morning. And once we get on the road, I got to go back to the city for a few days. So tomorrow is Tuesday. Hopefully I will be heading back here by Friday. That's the plan. And Lorena will come with me, and of course Whiskey, our faithful Labrador. So anyway, that's where we're at. Stick with us, and we'll continue this series. I'll try to film a final thing today with where we end up, but if we end up where I'd like to end up, basically we'll get all those girts up, we'll get the eaves up, and get all these rest of these purlins up, and that'll finish out this section. And then that'll mean that all these sections are basically finished except this far end. So I did not put up the end wall down here, and the reason I didn't put up the end wall is because I still have a lot of work to do inside of the structure over here, because this is where I have to make modifications for our 4-inch change of plan, and that was due to the slab being a little bit short. But I've got some holes to drill in all those purlins up top, basically on this end, but I may have some things I have to do on that end too, I don't recall. So I just want to leave this open so I can move the telehandler in and out easily on this end, reaching in, and not have to worry about these columns that basically go here and over there where the sticks are. So once this is built, it'll create an end wall that is very much like the end wall on that end, and then we'll come out here to these piers, put up the last 2 columns, put up another rafter, tie it in with the 2 eaves on the end, and purlins tying into those purlins that'll come out across the top, and that's it. Because this is an open section, so we don't have to worry about putting up girts and all that. So, and that's pretty much then the whole structure. It'll be 50 by 100, 16-foot sidewalls, and it'll be a beautiful thing. And then after we get done with that, then I'm gonna probably spend some time just doing detail work. I've noticed that, you know, you can call it mistakes, whatever. There's some things we did wrong that I need to go back and correct. Basically, you know, maybe it's just that we were in a hurry or whatever, but there's some little errors we made along the way that I need to go back and fix. Basically, some of those purlins aren't tight, so one purlin sits higher and it creates a little ridge, and I don't want that little ridge affecting the layout of the tin. I don't want, you know, bumps and stuff. I want it to be smooth and professional. So I've got to go back and see, maybe I just need to take a C-clamp and loosen the bolts and clamp the girts together, or the purlins together tighter, so they don't leave a ridge. But in some cases, if we put the purlin on upside down, then it sits a little off, so I may have to unbolt it and flip it over and then rebolt it. Whatever I gotta do, I'll get it done, work all those details. And then there's also some angle brackets and stuff that need to be put up. So if you look up there, there's that tab inside of the column. It should have an angle brace that comes out and attaches to that girt. So just little things like that, going back, working all the detail. If make a decision on that door and do that, and I'll probably spend a few weeks just taking my time, working from one end to the other, looking for every little thing that could possibly be wrong, correct what I need to correct, and once I'm comfortable that everything is perfect, or as perfect as I can get it, then I'll start thinking about putting the tin up. And the tin process is do all the walls first and then put up the roof. I think I also actually have to put trim up before I put the tin up. So, and doors and windows, I got to put doors and windows in as well, the walk doors and the windows. So there's still a lot of work to do on this. This is going to take a while, but we'll get her done. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like the video, like all of our videos, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, All those things help to trigger the YouTube algorithm, which then shares our videos and helps our channel grow. So we appreciate your support. It definitely helps to motivate us and keep us going. And after this 9 days of building, definitely need all of that, because I gotta tell you, physically and mentally, I'm about wore out. So having a few days break's gonna be nice also. Thanks again. Stick with us, folks. All right, folks, it's now about 2:30 in the afternoon. We've been working since, I don't know, whatever time it was when we started. And we about got her done for what we're gonna do this trip. So just to recap what we've done today, you can see we've got up this set of girts. The middle, we only put up 2 girts. There's one more girt that goes at the top, but if we put it up there, you can see where those straps are connected. If we put the final girt up there, then we can't put the straps, and we really need to leave those straps on to keep all this rigid. That's our bracing, and it's really making a difference. So we're going to leave that on until next time, and I will bring the magnetic drill with annular cutters, and that's how I'm going to cut the holes out for the cables. So we'll have to mark the cables. Of course, you can see the wind's picking up here quite a bit, and you see them things just humming from that wind. So we finished just in time. The wind just kicked up literally as we finished, so perfect timing. And on this end, we've got all the girts up. In addition to getting all those girts up, so we're minus 1 girt on this end wall, and cutting holes for the cable bracing. We've got all the purlins up. So that's what we just finished doing. We also put up the eaves along the outside, so you can see the top line there. Those are the eaves, and they all fit rather nice, and they do add a little rigidity to like the doors and stuff like that. So they definitely make a difference, but according to the engineers, they're not really, you know, structural, load bearing, whatever you want to call it. So as far as what we got to do here, cables and that girt, and I think that's it for this whole end. Everything else is good to go. We may find some little bracing or something that has to go somewhere. I think like those columns, we'll get a little piece of bracing or something. We'll figure that out. Have to go back and study the plans. I think we've got some angle braces to put on those. This section here, all good to go, and same thing, maybe a little angle bracing on the columns. Other than that, no issues. This section here, good to go, no issues. Same thing, maybe some little angle braces or something detail. And then we get to the section where we had mods. So there's holes to be drilled and braces to be put on, and some more bolts to be put in once we drill holes. And then this section should be good. And then we've got to put up the patio, the whole section out here. So basically what we've got left here, we've got 2 columns, we've got the rafters, we've got 10 purlins and 2 eaves. So what we're doing right now is I've still got to weld the final eave to extend it the 4 inches. I'm going to brace those as well, and then drill the holes so that the next set of purlins will match up. And we're probably gonna have to drill those purlins as well, because we're moving them basically 4 inches. So we extended these purlins, they stick out 4 inches more than they were supposed to now, and the other purlins are gonna reach 4 inches less than they were intended to. But typically we've got a pretty good overlap on those, so should not be an issue. We just move the overlap a little bit, but we should still be able to get 4 bolts in them on the main welded braces, and that'll tie it up good and tight without any issues. And then we'll put some extra bolts in the overlap spud holes just to double secure it, make sure there's nothing to worry about there. Once all that's done, we've also got this end wall to put up, and that end wall is basically the same as the other end wall. Of course, the columns are already here. So on the outside columns, the girt clips are already there. We've got a girt clip that'll mount to the rafter up on the top for the short girts, like you see on the far end. The top ones are short, and then all the other girts down the middle and everything. So 3 layers of girts on the end, and the end wall columns that'll bolt up there, and that'll take care of that end wall. Then we go into detail work, which is going to be just finding any braces, angle braces, things like that we got to do, double checking all of our square, plumb, level, etc., making sure everything's good and set, making sure all our cable braces are tensioned well enough. You know, you don't want them super tight, they're not piano wires, but we don't want them loose either, so we'll make sure those got good tension. And put our doors, windows, etc. Once we're completely done with all the framing and the detail work on the framing, and we're 100% satisfied with this, then I will start the tin work, or trim I think goes first. Trim work, tin work, we'll work it out. I've also got to make my decision on that 12-foot door over there. Let me know in the comments what you think. If I get these videos out before I've made my decision, let me know what you'd do. So basically the way I see it, I either leave it the same as a 12-foot door, and you know, I'll find some doors to go in it one way or another that meet my specs, or I extend it out 1 foot on each side, same exact way these doors over here are. It's already the same height. All I'll have to do is purchase another header, which is just a piece of C purlin, and so I'll go buy a longer piece of C purlin, drill some new holes in it, and put that up there. So you can see it's got 2 holes on each end. Pretty simple, not too difficult to deal with. And then at the top it mounts to the eave, so that'll be drill 2 holes in that. These girts over here I can probably just slide and maybe drill a little bit, whatever, and you know, just do more overlap. And then these girts over here are one piece, so I'll have to cut a foot off of these girts and drill them. Unfortunately, those holes that are in there are at 14 inches and not 12, so it doesn't really help us, but that's the way it is. So yeah, that's basically what it would take. Oh, and then the anchor bolts. So the other challenge is I will have to take those anchor bolts off, just cut them, and 1 foot away I'll have to drill into the concrete and put some new anchor bolts in. Now I don't think you know, these are definitely not structural, so as far as what those anchor bolts do, in my opinion, they're wind shear, and that's it. You know, I mean, they're tying them down in case you're crash into it or something, which I hope we never do. If we do, we got bigger problems to deal with. But not structural, probably wind shear. That's all I can think of. So, you know, we can put 2 good anchor bolts in there. Those are 5/8 bolts. We could use same type we used on the other deal, but go with bigger ones. Even we go up to 3/4 inch and get them good and deep. You know, maybe use a 7-inch 3/4 inch by 7-inch bolt, so we get it way down into the concrete, drill down you know, 6 inches, and do that. They're called wedge anchors. So there's what we're debating. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll see what we end up doing. Now we got to get ready to head home.